Danganronpa. What the heck was that? Okay, Danganronpa is... Alright, enough with that thing. Danganronpa is a game that I have recently played, and I liked it. I did not expect to enjoy my time playing this game, as it looked like the type of game that I never in a million years would enjoy playing. However, I played through it, and I liked it. Like I said, I thought this game was pretty fun. A lot of really engaging twists and characters to bring you along the entire story, and I enjoyed it pretty much from beginning to end. And one of the big factors of enjoying Danganronpa... Okay, we're done with that. Danganronpa as a series has to be the students and the characters of the entire thing. So today we're going to be making a tier list of all 15 students in the original Danganronpa game, and as you can see right here, we actually do have some characters already sort of on the list. Of course, Toko's alternate personality, Genocide Jill. We have 2 Junkos on this list as well, and then Mukuro Ukusaba, the 16th student, in the question mark one, because I don't know why there's 2 different Tokos. I know it's a split personality, but I consider them one person because that just makes sense. And then Junkos, again, not sure why there's 2. Maybe it's the disguised Junko. That Mukuro is technically, I don't know what's going on there, but also Mukuro I'm not going to be ranking because we don't really interact with her at all in the entire story. We're just going to be talking about characters we do interact with, starting with none other than Leon Kuwata, who is our very first murderee, the first killer of the game. Even though he does kind of do it in self-defense, I still am putting him pretty relatively low down in D tier because I just didn't really get attached to his character. I didn't really talk to his character that much. If I had more time with his character in the game, he definitely could have been higher up in these tiers, but I didn't, and I don't really think that much about him, so he's going to be down in D tier, unfortunately. But we're quickly moving on to Chihiro, and she is going to be an instant A tier. I love Chihiro so much. I thought they were a really fun character and a really relatable character in this situation. They were one of the few people in this situation who was like, hey, this is kind of insane. Maybe we should slow down and realize we really shouldn't kill each other, which oddly enough, not a ton of other people shared that personality. I mean, they all sort of believe that to a degree, but Chihiro is the one that really pushed for that. And of course, this character continues to be important in this game after their execution with Alter Ego, so it's very important to the plot as well that this character is ranked fairly high. Now moving on though, we do have Mondo himself, and I'm going to throw him into the B tier. I liked Mondo. I definitely kind of wish they pushed this antagonistic villain, low-level bully to Makoto at the beginning of the game. However, that quickly went away. We really didn't see that personality side of him come out too much. He really just turned out to be kind of a dude bro and then ended up dying. After, of course, executing Chihiro, who I do like quite a bit more than Mondo, so of course Mondo is going to be a little bit below him. But moving on though, we do have none other than Kiyotaka, and this guy was fine as well. Didn't really have much opinion on him. He definitely was sort of a background character for most of it. I definitely wish I spent a little bit more time getting to know him as his personality, but I'm gonna throw him solidly in the C tier. I thought he was funny at moments, but never really did much in the story to really make me appreciate this character all too much, so he's going to be a very solid C tier. Now we do have our very first F tier with Hifumi. I really did not like this character. I'm just not a fan of the pervy gamer stereotype weirdo kind of guy. I think it's a really bad, reflection of the anime watching and the gaming community with this character all summed up into one. Not a fan of his character. I was cheering for him to die pretty much essentially the entire story. I know that's very dark, but that's what happens in these games. So he's going to be in the F tier for me. Next up though, we do have Celeste, and I'm going to throw her at the top of B tier for now. That's not Celeste. I'm going to throw actual Celeste at the top of B tier. I did like her personality. Everything about her was very fun and interesting. I say fun, maybe it wasn't fun necessarily, as she was kind of a cold-hearted person. However, in the end, I still enjoyed her as a character in the entire thing, and she was just honestly a fun person to have around, and I was upset when she died. So I'm going to have her solidly in the B tier. However, I just convinced myself. I'm going to throw her in the A tier. I actually did like Celeste even more looking back on it, so Celeste is getting bumped up into the A tier. Our very first S tier is going to be Sakura. I thought Sakura was an absolute MVP of the entire game. I thought she was a really cool, fun personality and just the goat of a cool character. However, the only flaw I have with her is that I didn't like that she ended up killing herself in the game. Again, massive spoilers, but I just don't like that option as anything. I don't think that's ever should be the only option you resort to. I know in the story she was pushed to her absolute limits, but I still don't like that scenario. I really am upset that is the result of her character, but still I like her character quite a lot. Next up though, we do have Makoto. I want to put Makoto right here in D tier. Now I know obviously being the main protagonist of the entire story, I probably should like this character a little bit more. However, I don't. I actually think he's pretty bland. He even describes himself to be very, very bland. But at the end of the day, I just never really related to this character, even though you're playing as him. I know he's supposed to be a somewhat blank protagonist to throw yourself in the shoes. However, he very often did things that I did not agree with. For example, one time he was talking to Kyoko and he was like, should I tell her this or should I not? I trusted Kyoko at this point. I said, I'm going to tell her this. And then Makoto said, I probably shouldn't tell her this. And then she was pissed at him. And it resulted in a very strange scenario right there. And I really didn't like that kind of conflicting ideas of the protagonist and what the person controlling the protagonist said. So I want to put him down in D tier because I really was upset with Makoto and his actions quite a few times. Now, speaking of Kyoko, however, she is going to be the instant top of S tier. Of course, she is a very pivotal character in the entire game, and she felt like maybe the most important character besides possibly Makoto in the very first Danganronpa game. Very important character, very cool character, very likable, and I just am so glad we had a character to kind of follow along the entire mystery with, the entire first game with. She's going to be an instant S tier for me personally. Next up, though, we have Byakuya. Again, if you haven't noticed by now, my Japanese pronunciation is terrible, so I apologize. He's going to be an A tier. Now, this is more so of an A tier character. He's actually going to be the top of A tier. He's more so of one of those A tier characters that I like as a character. As a person, I didn't like him. I think he went a little bit too far sometimes, the way he talked to Toko, the way he talked to Makoto. He went too far with his verbal, insults and everything like that. Just some lines he crossed I did not appreciate. However, I still liked him as a character and his role in the entire story, and I actually was definitely a fan of him because of that. Next up, though, we got to talk about his girl, Toko. I like Toko at times, and sometimes I really didn't. It's a very mixed bag, but at the same time, it is an interesting character, so I'm going to throw her up there in B tier. At times, of course, she had really funny lines, and I thought this character was genuinely very interesting. However, also at times, I felt like she was insufferable and just I was not a fan of her personality at all. I'm also, of course, considering Genocide Jill when I talk about Toko here as well, because I definitely see them as one and the same character. Even if it is a split personality thing, I'm ranking them as one person right here. Next up, though, we do have Yasuhiro here, and I like this guy. I definitely do. I'm going to put him solidly at the bottom of A tier. I definitely kind of wish he did more in the story as a character at times. He just seemed a little bit like a background character who made it to the end of the entire game without really doing too much. He was a funny character, an interesting guy to have around. However, I kind of wish he stepped up in the story a little bit more, so that is why he is at the bottom of A tier, despite being a character I did genuinely like. Next up, we have Aoi, I think that's how you say it, Asahina, and I like this character a ton. She is going to be pretty much at the top of A tier here, right below S tier. The only reason she's not S tier, actually, yeah, we're going to drop her in S tier. I did like her a lot. Of course, she was very much so over-sexualized by the creators of the game. Something I didn't love about the entire experience is I am not that big of a pervert. I like to think I'm not that big of a pervert. I cringed a lot of the times those moments happened. However, I still enjoyed her as a person, a very, relatable person like Chihiro here, who just felt like, hey, this situation is messed up. We should really stop, killing each other. And her bond with Sakura as well was very important. And honestly, for a while, I did think she was the murderer of Sakura, and my just soul was crushed. I was like, I cannot believe this character turned out to be somewhat evil. Thankfully, she was not. I liked her a lot, but thankfully she was not evil at all. Now, moving on to Sayaka. This was a very interesting character. I'm going to drop her at B tier because I thought she was a genuinely interesting character. However, never really got that much time to shine as she was the first one killed in the entire game. Even though she was the first one killed, she made it all the way above all these other past characters. That just goes to show how interesting of a unique character this was. I definitely felt like she was going to stick around longer, which made the shock value of her first initial death hit that much harder. I also do appreciate that she was actually sort of using Makoto. I think the game kind of clarifies and says that they do have a genuine relationship. However, I kind of buy into the theory that she was not really into Makoto at all and was definitely trying to frame him for murder. I love that kind of aspect of her character a ton. I thought it was really interesting to make your character more in depth, and I really appreciate that. May as well use the people around you, use your advantages to try to get out of the game. Is it dark? Is it twisted? Absolutely, but it's also definitely cool and unique about her. I'm also going to move Mondo down one. Toko, you're a little bit more important in the story. Sorry, big guy. Last but certainly not least, we do have Junko, and I'm a little bit mixed. Some parts of me want to throw her in S tier because she's the most important character of the game. Some parts of me want to throw her in F tier because she's a villain. I don't really like her as a villain, but I'm going to throw her solidly in the middle of C tier because I'm kind of mixed on both those things. I think she's a very, very important character of the game. However, we didn't really spend a lot of time with her. Of course, if you want to be technical, every time we were talking to Monokuma, we were kind of talking to her, but that's a little bit weird way to think about it. I want to think about her more so as a character, and I do think she was an interesting character, but I'm going to keep her right here in C tier because, again, we didn't spend a lot of time with her. She wasn't really a classmate of ours. She just turned out to be a twist villain at the end, and when she was revealed, I gotta be honest, I was not super into her personality, her very kind of different personality, the way she was just talking about despair. She seemed like a villain for being a villain's sake. Again, I wish she had a little bit more motive besides that she liked despair. Of course, that is the definition of Danganronpa, but still I would have liked a little bit more there. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this tier list of Danganronpa characters. Of course, I don't really feel comfortable rating these three, specifically this one. If anything, I throw her an F tier because we didn't spend any time with her, but she could be an S tier if we did spend time with her, so I'm just not going to rank her. And that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this Danganronpa 1 character tier list. I wonder if you guys agree. I really have not consulted online to see what characters are the most popular in this game, so I am pretty interested to see what other opinions about this character list are. I thought they were all pretty likable, a pretty cool cast for the first game, and I've actually played the second game as well, and I will confidently say I do like this cast better than the second game, even though I do like the second one as well. So make sure to like and subscribe. I'll be making a tier list of the second game and letting you guys know my opinions about those characters as well. So make sure to like and subscribe to keep up to date with more Danganronpa, a series that I did not expect to really enjoy at all, but I did. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and bye-bye.